So I want to talk a little bit about your background. So obviously your kind of claim to fame or whatever was with the Maverick rebrand, because I
Yeah.
remember when I was in like elementary and middle school that it was not the cool gas station, and now it is the cool gas station to go to.
Yeah.
Like whenever we go on track trips, that's the gas station that all the athletes want to stop at. We're like, okay, that's where we're gonna go. So I just want to get a little bit more of your background information.
Yeah, absolutely. Very strange story. Probably made it to branding in kind of a circuitous route. I studied illustration. I want you to come back to me to 1982. I'm 12 years old. I've got a bunch of brothers in southeast Idaho, Chubbuck, Idaho. So we live in Chubbuck, Idaho, and my mom is so tired of all of us boys watching TV that she throws out the idiot box. She takes, that's what she calls it, because we all turn into idiots when we're watching TV, right? So she takes the idiot box and she puts it in the garage. Well, what does a 12-year-old kid do? I'm interested in sports and stuff, but I'm like, what do I do with all this free time? There's not a lot of surf in the net back in 82. Um, I had a hobby that I enjoyed that was drawing. And so I spent time in my room drawing, page after page in my sketchbook, and the drawing sucked, right? But I loved the process of drawing. I thought it was fun. Um, that ignited a talent. I discovered a talent where I wanted to draw everything, and so I took every class I could in high school. Every elective was an art class, and I took summer school art classes, and I wanted to be a professional illustrator. So I studied illustration in college. And so my first job out of college was working for an ad agency doing concept design, concept illustrations, storyboards, mock-ups, things like that. Well, that took me down a path of starting my own business in 1995. And I would do production work for ad agency clients and then some other clients that we had. But the frustration I experienced was that some of these clients would ask us to do art or a website, or usually it's like a TV commercial, radio commercial, or some kind of design that had nothing to do with like this consistent brand. And I'm like, why don't we build something that kind of increases value as people are exposed to it? So instead of just a promotion, hey, I want to do an ad that promotes my service and we'll give away a lawnmower. I'm like, what does a lawnmower have to do with taxes? I don't understand this, right? Well, it's summer, it's springtime and people want a lawn. So the same thing happened with Maverick. So I was introduced to Maverick from a media company who had been asked to place TV commercials. And when I met with Maverick, they said they wanted to know if we could produce a TV commercial for them. And I'm thinking, this was the time when Maverick was Cowboy West. It was, Maverick country stores, brown and orange and saloon style store design. And they were known for really cheap gas and kind of cheap but high value, like large quantities at a low price. That was kind of their deal. And they were inexpensive and cheap gas. And so I'm thinking, they want a TV commercial. Why don't we use something about the brand? Like, the cowboy, and he's got a 6-shooter and he's shooting things up and having some fun. And it's actually, the guy's name was Brad Call. He was 3rd generation owner of Maverick. So he and his family owned Maverick. And he said at the end of my pitch of these 6-shooters and stuff, he's like, I don't want anything to do with cowboy in our ads. And I'm like, you realize your brand is all about cowboy. And he's like, yeah, I just want to get away from it. And so I'm like, well, instead of creating an ad that has nothing to do with cowboy, why don't you change your brand so that you can produce marketing materials that can build a new image, a new brand. And he was thinking, it's impossible to separate Maverick from Cowboy. And because Maverick was country store. And I said, well, let me see what we can do. And so we did some research. I had 8 guys that worked for me, 8 guys and girls that worked for me. And we did a very low-tech research where we would meet with a bunch of different convenience store customers and ask them about their attitudes about convenience store shopping. Most people don't like to go to gas stations because you're buying gas. No one goes, today's the day I get to buy gas. It's Wednesday. So we learned that convenience store shoppers enjoyed going to a convenience store on their way to their favorite adventure. Like if they were going skiing or hunting or fishing or camping or whatever, their attitude about a gas station kind of changed. And so, because they'd give themselves permission to buy the goodies and snacks and whatever. And so we went, what if Maverick became the place where people stop on their way to their adventure? And one of my guys says, it would be adventure's first stop. I'm like, that's a great tagline. And so that tagline filtered like a campaign that we pitched to Maverick, where Maverick would be the place. We would treat life as an adventure. So no matter what you're doing, taking your kid to violin practice or soccer or going to work, Maverick was going to view that as an adventure. And then we would outfit your adventure with whatever provisions that you needed at our store. So that kind of, this illustration, ad agency, led me to Maverick. And then at Maverick, we built this very cohesive, clear brand lens of adventure that allowed us to produce everything in their marketing materials through that lens. And that's what got us started. I mean, me really started about brand development.
I love that story. A little bit about me is I went to school for art and I had a focus in illustration as well. So I think that's
okay.
really
I didn't know that, Matt. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was my focus. And then my professor was like, Matt, I think we need to get you into some digital. And then I got my second degree in marketing as well to like get more of that like marketing brand graphic design.
So let me ask you real quick, as an illustrator with generative AI, how has that affected your brain when it comes to like creative production and the kind of the field of illustration? Because if you can just type in, I want a sketch of an F-14 airplane, and you go, blink. Nope, I want a profile. Blink.
It's definitely, so it's kind of twofold. Like I see it from somebody who works on a small marketing team of juggling so many hats and spinning so many plates, trying to get stuff out there that I'm like, oh, it's so cool to get something out there. But then I also, on the flip side of that, feel like, am I gonna like lose like my job and like my unique selling position as like an employee? But then I guess I think of it at the same time, I feel like I'm not giving a solid answer. So I think it's cool, but I feel like it's kind of hurting the people who are coming up with the creative. But obviously you need the person who has the ideas. And I think vision is really important. Like, because you can say, oh, I want I mean, I've tried it out and I'm like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. I've put in like so many prompts. I'm like, oh, it's not getting what I have it very clear in my brain what I want it to look like. So I have to take it to myself and like figure out how to make it happen.
Right. So it is kind of like this bittersweet thing. And I think obviously the tools are going to get better. And so I'm super excited at the event where we're going to have another speaker talk about AI and using AI to help you produce marketing materials. Phenomenal topic for small businesses who don't have the budget to go, hey, I'm just going to hire an agency. It's like, well, your AI tools, if you know how to manage them, they can kind of be a quasi agency for you if you know how to give it the right types of prompts. But we're still in AI infancy, really. Think about what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years. I'm really worried about, as an illustrator, when I started, if someone said, hey, I need an illustration of fill in the blank, instead of going to a professional illustrator, they just type it in.
Mhm.
What happens to the illustrator business? That's scary.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I think it's definitely like a super cool tool, but I think there's a part of it that AI can't replace with that human connection or that ability to feel like emotion and really convey something properly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's where obviously it'll get better and maybe it might get to that point, but for
Yeah.
right now, I'm like, I can give you something that's going to speak more truly to who you are
Yeah.
versus you going in and potentially stealing somebody else's ideas and
Yeah.
art to get through AI.
Yeah. 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 Oh,
Yeah.
it's a crazy world, isn't it? I'm excited though. It's super exciting to me and terrifying. It's like a roller coaster ride if you don't know how it's going to end, you know?
Oh, yeah. I really loved like your idea of like using brand to increase value and consistency.
Hmm.
What's one of the things that you notice a lot, especially with smaller agencies? Like, do they just bounce around and be like, I'm going to do anything that's going to stick to the wall? Or, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think so. I consult a fair amount. I speak a lot to small businesses. One of the things that's frustrating is that when a small, and I totally understand it because I've been a small business. I know, I get it. When you're a small business, you don't have a lot of money. You're trying to get your product in front of people as soon as possible so you can generate money. And so the way you think about branding is I need to get a logo, a website, business cards, business identity, and I need to go with that. And then once you've done that, maybe even done some packaging, by the time you've invested a fair amount of money, you realize, oh my gosh, I have a brand package, which is actually not even a brand. It's a design package to identify your product from a competitor's, much like a cattle brand. All that cattle brand says is like, this cow belongs to, Rockin' J Ranch, and this cow belongs to the Bar H Ranch. It's like, other than that, I don't know anything about what the difference in the product is. And so just because there's a different brand on it doesn't provide me with any preference. So in the world of cattle, I love this because it makes sense because right now you think cows are cows. But if I know that the Bar H Ranch is located in a very green, beautiful valley, it's going to produce product that is fattier, tastier, more tender. But if Rockin' J is in a desert, a high mountain desert, they're going to be leaner, tougher, etc. So there's now a story behind the label. And what branding should be doing is talking about the story, the personality of the company rather than the product. So instead of saying our meat is soft, tender, and juicy and whatever, it should be our product is grown in a valley, a verdant valley, and it's beautiful and it's like, and the cows get massages or whatever it is, right? But then that paints a different picture, an emotional picture that we can kind of glow onto because we are 95% of all purchase decisions are emotional based. 95%. We make the decision emotionally and then we justify it logically with data. Yet most of us in marketing, we are so prone, because we learn about this in school, feature, benefit, value, product, price. Make sure that you list the features and benefits, and then you talk about the price. And if you want to compete, you have to offer greater value for a lower price. And so your competitors end up doing the same thing. Hey, we're going to add this feature and this feature, and we're going to cut the price. Okay, you can't add features and benefits for free. That costs money. And if you're getting less money for it, there's a race to the bottom line. I mean, a race to like zero profit. But if you focus on the story, the emotional connection, like one of my favorite brands right now is Liquid Death. It's a water brand, right? It's freaking water. It's it's water. The difference between water brands literally is measured in the parts per million. So there is they're so similar product to product, but the huge difference is in the story. And that story is told through packaging and through marketing and through social media and through videos and stuff like that. Water brands don't go, let me tell you about the total dissolved solids in our water. No, no one cares. Oh, and these dissolved solids, minerals, they provide it with a crisper taste than these other minerals. Like no one gives a crap about the product when it comes to water. When products offer very, very similar features and benefits, you've got to get far, far away from talking about product. You need to talk about now the story and the personality associated with the company. And if you don't have that articulated, you end up doing promotional marketing. Save 50%, save 25%, get a free lawnmower, you know? And then you totally lose any kind of brand integrity. So we start usually with colors and design, mistakenly thinking that that's brand. And then we start making promotions, advertising that further weakens the brand. And then 5 years later, you got companies going, we're making good money, but there's so much more money we should be making. And no one knows why they should be buying from us versus somebody else. Because all we've been telling people is we have features and we have a lower price. So that's where people get it wrong.
Yeah, I think about those like memes or like those diagrams all the time. It's like what people think brand is versus what brand actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a big game changer that Tracy honestly helped initiate like our revolution at Solve of being like this corporate, like it's red and black and white, and here's the product, and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
to really crafting stories a lot more. And that's where we're definitely moving a lot more towards. And I think we're starting to see the benefits reaping and people connecting with us a lot more.
Yeah,
So I
it's
think,
it's hard to it's hard to create an ROI for brand
mhm,
because in order to do that, you have to create a non-branded comparison,
mhm,
and no one wants to spend the time and money. Like if Maverick wanted to find out what the value of brand is, they'd really have to create a completely different store that has no Maverick adventure brand, and they'd have to do a test over time to determine if brand is making a difference. And it's just so hard to measure that, um, the value of brand. But the thing is, like, you can see examples of it all around us
mhm.
of really great brands that have strong personalities that command a premium price for offering a feature and benefit set that is comparable. Water, computers, telephones, name it. Most of them, most people's businesses have a competitor that offers a product or service really, really similar to theirs. And so it's time to start working on brand.
Yeah, I think about a lot of how like our customers are reacting with us and like building relationships, that we're not just the people who sell them the check stock or the people who sell them the water bottle, but oh,
Yeah.
that's Ben, and Ben is super cool and I love working with Ben.
Yeah.
um I think of it from how when I first started 4 years ago to how happy everybody is, and people are really recognizing and attaching themselves to the Solve brand as an employee a lot more because it makes more
Mhm.
sense to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
When a brand is strong, you get employee buy-in. You get
mhm,
employee performance. You
mhm,
get like people say all the time, I love going to a Maverick store because the bathrooms are really clean and the people are really friendly and stuff. And I'm like, just so you know, like every convenience store chain has like very, very similar protocol for making sure their bathrooms are clean and having friendly service. And I just think that when you have a brand that you're proud of, your performance is elevated. So you want to make sure that your customers have a better experience because you're proud of that brand that you represent. So it has a halo effect.
Yeah, I think of that. So we have a hat because part of our brand is adventure as well, and it says
Uh-huh.
adventure on it. And literally every single time Carrie walks into a Maverick gas station, like she always like, "Oh, you really love Maverick," and she's like, "Yes, but this is actually my company." And so it's just really cool that the people at a Maverick convenience store are so proud that people are wearing like a Maverick hat.
Yeah.
I think it really hits home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to move on and talk a little bit about like Rise of the Machines and oh, what's your other one? The one that we're going to be talking about a little bit more. Oh, your book.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about that. Like what inspired you to get talking about Rise of the Machines
Mm.
versus and what inspired you to actually write your book?
Oh my gosh. So Rise of the Machine there are so many people that have been talking about using AI tools. And in the marketing world, one of the things that I see as as a creative production guy, I see the advantages that AI can give me as a tool. And so Rise of the Machines is a keynote that I give that teaches small business owners or companies that have very, very tiny marketing departments, like one or two people in their marketing department, like how can you use AI tools to produce on-brand marketing content? Because if you don't know how to prime your AI tools to understand your brand, you're going to get the exact same type of stuff everybody else gets when they enter a prompt. And so what ends up happening is like ChatGPT becomes your writer. And that writer also writes for your competitors. So what makes, and ChatGPT is a good writer and sometimes better than the people who are in the marketing department. So when they get something great from ChatGPT, they go, "Oh, cool, we're done." And it looks very similar and it sounds similar. And so what I do is I explain how to discover first your brand and then use brand descriptors, feed that into your AI tools to get branded stuff back that ChatGPT won't write for everybody else. So that's what Rise of the Machines is. Let's embrace the machines, but let's give it some direction and some focus before they become our overlords and we become their slaves or snacks, you know, for now. So, and you asked about my book.
Yeah,
Um,
your brand sucks.
your brand sucks. Yep, your brand sucks. And the reason I wrote that book is that I had been being asked to speak to convenience store associations all over the country to share the Maverick brand. And like, how did we get there? And I thought, man, I've taken the same kind of a formula and I've applied it to other brands. And I also recognize other companies that kind of have the same, good brands. All good brands have kind of like this universal formula. But how do we get there? And I've been I read a ton of books about how branding is important and the value of brand. And Apple does this and Starbucks does this. And I'm like, great. Can you just show me how the recipe is put together? Don't just tempt me with samples of the food. I need to know how the recipe is put together. And so I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a book that breaks down the process, the step-by-step process of building a brand. And it starts with, the first one is finding your brand spark. I have an acronym called FIRE. So F is find your brand spark. And that brand spark is what makes the company truly unique from every competitor. Here's what I get all the freaking time. I'll be in a conference room and I'll have someone stand up and I'll say, hey, how many competitors do you have in the room? And they're looking around like, oh, there's probably like 40, 20 or whatever. I go, what makes your company different? You know what? It's our service. It's our quality. It's our people. And I'm looking around going, can you stand up? What makes you different? It's our service. It's our quality. And I'm like, do we see the problem here? Everybody's talking about their quality, service, and people. That is not what makes you different. That's not what makes you stand out. Otherwise, you're all shouting the same message, and whoever spends the most money on marketing will win. Who wants to play that game? And so what I do is I go, we have to dig deeper than just the superficial. And the deeper means you either have to find something that's unique about your company. Like I'll be sharing the story about Chuck Norris's water that had nothing to do with Chuck Norris. It was all about purity. Their whole brand was about purity. I'm like, no one cares about purity. People assume the water in the bottle is pure enough. So we should talk about something that is uniquely different about the company, not necessarily about the product, which is kind of mind-blowing. So F is find your brand spark. Either find it or create it, like in Maverick's case. Adventure was not part of the Maverick brand of product, like gas, hot dogs, sandwiches, burritos. It's like there's nothing inherently adventurous about gas stations. And so we had to let's borrow that brand, that image, and infuse it into ours. And we make it our own. But adventure is very different in the gas station space. So find your brand spark, because that is the message that you're going to be talking. That's the biggest message that you're going to be using to convey your offer or your invitation to your customers. Second, identify your target customer. I'm customers focused. Like, so who's your customer? Anybody who buys from me. Like, that's hard. That's hard to do, because just because someone buys from you doesn't make them your target customer. Your target customer is the one that isn't price sensitive, that there's something they love about your product or service, and they may not even know it's part of your brand, that there's something they really they're gravitating toward, and they need your, whatever it is you offer. They need it, they prefer your brand, and they buy from you often, and they're not as price sensitive. That's your core customer. Now, other people will buy from you, but that core customer profile, you need to get everybody who shares those profile attributes to fall in love with you. Because if you're trying to chase everybody, you're going to lose a lot of your core, because nobody has the money to advertise to everybody on every media, so identify your target market, because that also tells you what type of bait to use, like in a fishing metaphor, and then where those fish are swimming. Like what markets are they swimming in? What media outlets would you use to get them? So third is realize your core belief. Simon Sinek calls it your why. Like, why do I do this? That belief is this kind of emotional driver that coalesces people's efforts into bringing their best to work. And when you know what the core belief is in the company, so for example, Maverick, core belief we had is that adventure elevates life. We believe that adventure is good for people. Okay, and so with that core belief, why wouldn't we try in every possible way to infuse that adventure into everybody's life? Instead of it being a package that we give to a customer, it's like everything about us is going to instill this adventure, because that's part of our belief system. And then the fourth is establish your brand adjectives. These adjectives, this is all part of the brand strategy. This is before a logo's made, before a website's developed. E is establish your brand adjectives. Come up with 5 or 6 adjectives to describe your brand, 2 of which can't be used to describe any of your competitors. Because if they could, then you're basically describing anybody else in your competitive landscape. So, but what happens when you have those adjectives to describe your brand? Now you can use those adjectives, your core belief, your brand spark, and your customers, and you create a Venn diagram of branded design assets, colors, fonts, textures, patterns, images, image styles, composition, because those elements, those brand elements, like ingredients in a pantry, they have flavors associated with them. They have personality already associated with them. Like colors is an easy one because there's color psychology. If I want my customers to feel excited, energized, etc., there's going to be some colors on the color wheel that will most likely influence that emotional reaction. If I want them to feel relaxed, confident, secure, peaceful, you won't use the same colors. And so same thing with fonts, textures, and patterns, and all those things. So if I know what the brand strategy is, now it's much, much easier for a designer or using AI, generative AI tools, to produce the materials you need to reinforce your strategy. So that's what the book is about, developing your brand strategy, and then the steps to execute that brand strategy, and then goes into advertising. Like, now that you have your marketing materials, what's the best way to advertise your message or promote your message? So that's the book.
Beautiful. You kind of answered a couple of the next questions already.
Mhm.
So, what is AI not a good fit for, like to help you with on a small
Oh
marketing team?
man, I I think AI is a good fit for pretty much everything, but and here's why. It's a good tool to get you closer to where you need to go faster. What it's not the finished product because we're becoming much more savvy to the language and tone of AI. And it's really, really easy. Like, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and it is so easy for me to tell when someone's using kind of copy and paste AI. Um, Even image, AI image generated stuff. I'm like, now, if it's intended to be AI or illustrative of AI, I'm like, I totally get it. But there's this nice composition when you get AI generative images or text or whatever back, and then you, as an illustrator, writer, producer, whatever, you add your flavor. You add your special sauce in it. You kind of, because your flavor, your brand flavor should be so strong that it kind of covers the AI after bitter, taste. The flavors of your brand are so overpowering that no one notices that AI helped you get 80% there. And so I think I use it for tons of things. Uh, Brainstorming, content development, radio scripts, um, social media content, uh, gosh, tons of stuff. But it helps me get where I want to go a little bit faster. I don't know. That's how I use it.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean when you say you see like on LinkedIn people who use it all the time. My fiance, they're a recruiter, and so they can always tell because they live on LinkedIn every single day
Hmm.
trying to find people to place jobs, and you see their posts, and it's the same emojis, the same format for
Yeah.
like 50 people just
Yeah.
scrolling down your feed. And they're like, I love AI, but you got to change it. You got to, like you said, add your own special sauce to it.
Yeah.
Make something
Yeah.
that's going to make it different.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting. I think so. One of the things I'm working on right now is just creating a custom GPT for me. And I'll upload my book. I'll get transcriptions of my videos and my presentations and things like that, so that I have a repository, a bot that has access, faster access than my own memory, fuller access than my own memory, to help me write content and develop content from my brain using my tone, my adjectives, my vocabulary, so that when I use AI, generative AI, it's from my brain and not from the global brain. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I feel like that ties in really nicely into when we interviewed Susan last week. She
Yeah.
was talking, if you're going to put that stuff in there, like find like a closed AI system. So it's
Mhm.
only talking about, it's not stealing your information and giving it to your competitor, but more so
Right.
you're
Right.
crafting a tool that's going to better help your company and your brand and
Yeah.
your
It's kind
marketing.
of like developing it's like creating an assistant. It's kind of like creating an administrative assistant that has a lot of that's very, very smart, like a savant that
Mhm.
just remembers everything you said. It understands your language and tone, and is a really, really fast typist.
Yeah, that's like my big thing. I'm like, okay, hey, I have like all these ideas. I have all these ideas. How do I get them? How do I get them out there better and
Yeah.
faster? And Tracy can probably always tell when I'm like, okay, I need to come up with a bunch of taglines, like what are the this, and this. And then I
Yeah.
look, I don't like that. I kind of like that, but I hate that word.
Yeah.
Tracy, find me a better word. Like,
Totally. Totally. But it gets us
uh,
there. It gets us there faster,
mhm.
which that's a tool that I love. I mean, I love using the tools to get because I'm all about efficiency. Oftentimes we get paid by our what we deliver, and so if I can get it done faster, then that makes more money for me.
Mhm. So, what can people expect from your presentation at Brand Discovery? Like, if you had a couple key points that are really going to get people to show up and show
Mhm.
out for you, what should they expect?
Well, they should expect they should drink a Red Bull beforehand just so they can keep up because I will be highly energetic. It will be fun, funny. And I've been told, Ernie, you're like a marketing semester in 30 minutes because the stuff I talk about is real. I'm not talking about theory. I'm not talking about philosophy or what somebody taught me. I'm talking about things I have done and what I have like put into practice and the successes and failures that I've had. So this is real applicable information. And because I'm trying to be as fast as possible, the process I've developed is the fastest way to sharpen or create a brand with personality that stands out, that gets attention, that is inspiring. So if whoever's coming, what's probably going to happen is they're going to walk away and go, "What do I need to do to sharpen my brand?" I got a few ideas already in my pocket. So that's what's going to happen.
Love that. And then just off the wall question, what are some of the best results you've seen from people implementing AI?
Oh man. So just I was at a speakers conference last weekend, and
Mhm.
oftentimes speakers will give, books or handouts or whatever to help their audience remember the content and material that they just shared. Because really, I think I've heard a statistic that like the retention when someone hears something is like 5 to 10% retention over time. They just forget it. If they see it, it goes up like double. So if I see it, I hear it, it goes up double. Now, if you interact with it, that doubles again. So you're like 60% retention if you hear it, you see it, and then you do something with it. You engage with it. And then if you sprinkle some emotion with that too, laughter, a serious story, a memorable story or impactful story, then it becomes an even higher retention. So one of the things I saw recently using AI was this woman, in a matter of minutes, took her content and said, her own, like her own GPT, so that it's her proprietary books that she wrote. She said, please create steps from A to Z, steps from A to Z that outline the things that speakers need to be aware of to be the best speaker they could be, or something like that, right? A, awkward, da 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 da. B, something, and then it has a little description of it, right? And then she prompted it to make sure that the copy of each of those different paragraphs was under 200 words. So she ended up getting like A to Z, the word, and then the copy that goes to each one. She said, now put that into a table. So ChatGPT puts it into a table. She copies and pastes the table into a Google Doc, a Google spreadsheet, and opens up Canva. And Canva has a generative template. And she basically, so there's fields so you can design something in Canva and say, this matches this column, this matches this column. And she was able to write a book in 20 minutes, laid out the whole book. And then she showed us a sample. She gave everybody a sample of this book. And I'm like going, holy crap, her content, A to Z, and all she had to do was add little illustrations for each page. And I'm like, okay, that would also be super easy. You go to like Midjourney or ChatGPT DALL-E and you say something like, create a character pose set or a character sheet of the same character in 15 different poses. Right? Copy each of those little characters, put them in the corner of the page, and now you have a really fun character on every page. Like, holy crap. It's now something that is memorable, that's content, that is like that's your custom branded content. And AI generated it in a matter of minutes versus, honestly, Matt, Tracy, if you were to do this, it takes like just come up with the layout on the table, and then you copy, you have to write the copy. You have to flow it in, and then you have to adjust it, and blah, 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 blah. Hire an illustrator or go to clip art, and you search forever trying to find 15 different poses of the same character that reinforce your brand. And you're going, oh my gosh, I just spent, 2 weeks on this thing. It probably, in 2 weeks time, it's probably like $3,000 to $5,000. So that's one little example of using AI in a very productive way to get a very meaningful piece of material. Because, by the way, she sells those books for $5 a piece to the event company that pays her to speak. So she charges her normal fee, and then they have 200 people there. It costs her $1.50 to print each one. She sells them for $5 a piece. I'm telling you, I love this stuff. Is that a good example?
Oh, that's a really good example,
Thanks,
because I'm
Mitch.
going to steal that idea, because I was going to make our own little booklet for the event that was like going to go on.
Okay.
So now you're going to speed up my time by
You're welcome.
2 weeks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I've been like thinking, I'm like, how do I make this work? And what am I going to put in it? And how am I going to do it? And how am I going to make it look? So that
Yeah,
idea
I'm
was
gonna do it. I
stolen.
was so inspired. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. Uh, in fact, so one of my previous, gosh, during COVID, I created a YouTube channel called Sketchy, and it's super sketchy.
Mhm.
You don't want to see it. It's me being really silly, teaching little kids how to draw. I got a
Mhm.
wig, and I talk with a lateral lisp, like Sid the Sloth, and it's like, it's crazy, right? So, but I'm thinking I could take I did 109 videos, step by step, how to draw a little character. And I think, man, I could easily now go through those videos, take a clip of each step of the video, have chat or have the video transcribed, define the steps, put it into a book. And it would probably take me, it'd take me some time to prepare it,
Hmm.
but that's pretty cool. I could do that really quick.
Yeah, it's definitely super, super like convenient. Like I
Yeah.
think the prep work and like understanding what you're going to put into the system is probably the most important part in that entire process.
Yeah.
And then it kind of does
Yeah.
the work for you.
Yeah.
Take it out and you have to like pretty it up.
But
You have to.
like anything else,
Mhm.
I tell you what, AI is going to teach us all how to be much better communicators. Because when you prompt ChatGPT, it's going to make us better husbands and wives, better parents. Because if I'm trained by ChatGPT to give very clear and direct prompts, sweetheart, will you please take out the trash in the next 5 minutes instead of the trash needs to be taken out? Okay. Like ChatGPT is going to, we're going to be required to be very specific. Composition, size, style, everything needs to be described. Now imagine if we can get that good talking to our families and our friends. See, ChatGPT, AI is helping us already.
Oh my gosh, I feel called out because I've used that sometimes when I'm like, I'll like write my email. I'm like, how could you make this sound less targeted and less like combative? I like do that I've like done that a couple times. I'm like, okay, but now it doesn't sound like me, so you're completely gone.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Um, I don't think I have any more questions. Tracy, do you have anything?
I do not. This has been amazing, and we really appreciate your time, Ernie.
Oh, my
Really,
pleasure.
really excited to see you here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just beyond excited. I'm beyond grateful. Like as we were sitting here, I think I saw like 12 more registrations like roll in. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Oh, good, good. Well, I am going to come with so much energy and so many ideas that if you don't walk away, do you have two other speakers too that I know of too? If you
Yes.
don't walk away with a suitcase full of ideas, okay, you are not listening because you'll walk away with like so many ideas that it'll be like, what do I start with first? It should be like Christmas morning. What am I going to start unpacking first? So.